cybersecurity expert Charles Tendell.
Systemic failures that brought their whole systems down.
Charles Tendell, he's a certified ethical hacker.
Your emails, it turns out, are not nearly as private as you think.
Show really how vulnerable we are.
Charles Tendell, who deals with hackers all the time, says,
if you have to ask yourself, is this right? It probably isn't.
Welcome.
That's why we're here, right?
We are here. This is the largest Jordan shoe con of history, right?
Secure Jordan shoe con.
So we have to figure that out. How do we secure the Jordans?
Well, I mean, that's actually really important.
That is. That's the future goal. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So Rod, you're new to the Charles Tendell Show. Yeah. So give my honest little background. Who are you? What do you do? And other than have excellent taste in shoes.
So my name is Rod Schultz. I'm the Chief Product Officer of Rubicon Labs. Rubicon is a cybersecurity startup company. We have a Series A backed startup, and we're based out of San Francisco with an engineering team in Austin, Texas.
Nice. Where in Austin? You guys weren't covered by any of that rain craziness, were you? Or
they're in Las Cimas. So off the Las Cimas Parkway over there. You know, when it gets to Austin, I just someone drives me around and they drop me off at places. And
that's horrible.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
We go to a lot of cool blues clubs in downtown.
Okay, that might make up for it.
Our chief architect was in charge of, he was head of the Austin Blues Society for a long time. So we do some really cool stuff in the evenings in downtown Austin.
I heard a comedian once say that in Austin, if you are a broke musician, you can get better assistance than if you're not a broke musician or something like that.
I think the challenge with Austin is that there's so much amazing music, but the willingness to pay is $5 by the public. So they expect to pay $5 for every single show. And it doesn't matter if they're a world-class blues musician or some random guy off the streets. The price ceiling seems to have been set, and that's actually probably one of the most disappointing things, is that the quality of music there is just off this world.
Wow. So, I mean, other than artificial ceilings and crazy things going on out there, what does Rubicon actually do? What do you guys...
Yeah, good question. Let me tell you a little bit of a history of where Rubicon came from. So Rubicon was initially funded to help build a PCI add-in card for Akamai. Akamai is the world's largest CDN, and Akamai escrows tens of thousands of RSA key pairs or asymmetric key pairs for their customers, RSA, ECC. And the reason why they do that is that CDNs exist because of the speed of light is finite, and so you want to put your server as close to the customer as possible when they're making a purchase.
Or the closest representation of what your server is as close to that person as
Exactly.
possible.
And so Akamai is fronting the identity of anybody on their edge, American Airlines.
So they have to know everybody.
Hotel, and so they need to have the right credential. And so those credentials are escrowed, but they're like a toxic asset for Akamai. And Akamai was worried after Heartbleed came out. So it turns out that Akamai was not protecting the RSA keys in memory of their customers, and then Heartbleed happened, and they got lucky because the memory management on their edge servers just was deeper than the Heartbleed stack attack was able to go.
So they missed the boat only because the boat overshot them.
That's right, or undershot them, or whatever term you want to use. And so Akamai said, hey, listen, let's work with Rubicon, let's fund this company. So we raised about $11 million Series A in 2014 to build secure execution environments as a form of PCI add-in cards that could operate on these keys that were escrowed by a CDN, in this case specifically for Akamai. And that was great, but the CDN business is very tough, and it's being commoditized. And there's a lot of different players involved. And by adding specialized hardware into the CDN, you are effectively decommoditizing or raising the average cost of the server. And Akamai has over 200,000 of these servers. And so when the math was done, they're like, hey, listen, really cool technology. Thanks for building it for us. But it doesn't scale to our financial needs for what Akamai needed. And we think we have other ways of solving key protection cheaper, with some other techniques we could use, Intel SGX perhaps, or some other things that they could start pulling into their data centers. So we took these core concepts that we were using, which was we were using symmetric keys to create secure execution environments or secure sandboxes for the execution of high-value data, such as RSA keys. And we took those concepts and we said, all right, well, let's retarget down to IoT. let's start to look at the building blocks or the cybermassive IoT and figure out how we can take this technology, apply it to microcontrollers that are resource constrained, but those microcontrollers need to have a cloud component that manages the keys for those microcontrollers. And could we utilize the IP? We have a ton of intellectual property in this space. In that area, in this massive growing area of Internet of Things devices connecting to the network. So that's a bit of a history of where Rubicon came from.
Okay, so the short version, you started, okay, what do you do now?
So today, we are focused on IoT devices and the management, so the authentication and the authorization of these devices as they're coming online. But instead of simply just selling security, what we're trying to do is sell business model enablement through policies that can be applied to these devices, so you can begin to control the behavior of the device from a remote location, the Rubicon services, so that you can now do things like...
Correct me if I'm wrong, you're encouraging organizations to build remote control mechanisms into their software or their appliances? So
yes.
like a Samsung with a television in somebody's home or a server in somebody's business would be, we have remote control over that device to be able to create a secure environment kind of thing?
So the goal, similar to that, the goal would be to say, hey, listen, I would like to create a device, and in order to reduce SKU count or reduce the cost, the upfront cost to my customer, I'm going to just have feature A unlocked for them. And that when they choose to go into move up the value chain to more stuff, rather than them having to go out and buy another device for all these tiny little embedded devices out there, they can just log on to my service and now say I want to unlock feature A, B, C, and D. And now you can remotely control those devices, unlock the functionality on those devices, and you can do that in a secure fashion, and the data can be protected. And you now have the opportunity to transform businesses by creating new opportunities for revenue.
Because they can remotely manage their assets.
Yeah, so an example might be, hey, I'm going to vend you a washing machine with very low functionality, and maybe I'm going to meter it, and you can only use it for 2 hours a day or something.
Yeah,
and
so I mean, I see where you're going. The idea is to enable organizations the opportunity to, for lack of a better term, Verizon or cell phone provider their services to someone.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell you this tier. This is all that you get. This is the level of control that I have. This is the level of mechanism. Because that's the only way I can see where they would be able to monetize that.
Right.
That's where you're seeing.
We call this software-defined IoT.
Okay.
And another example might be in a medical device, where you might have medical functionality that should operate in North America, but it shouldn't be allowed to operate in that way in Europe, based upon rules and regulations. Or perhaps a medical device where in the future you unlock a feature with a prescription rather than having to go and get a new device. And so we see this opportunity of controlling the functionality of these devices based upon policies. So you authenticate the device and then you authorize it to do functionality based upon what either the customer has paid for or what it's allowed to do based upon the geography, the location, all kinds of things. Anything that you can manage, you can now apply a policy to. That's what we're building out.
I can see how that would be insanely lucrative, but from my perspective, what would scare me, and I don't know how you feel about it, I mean, it's your baby. That level of control, who are you putting that in the control of? Like, who is the ones that hold the keys to that kingdom?
Right, so for the medical device,
because the medical device is in and of itself, that right there is like, so you're telling me that patient X over here is on this subscription plan, he gets these meds at this regular time, oh, he didn't pay his bill this month, I got LoJack on his heart.
That's right, we want people to die. No, I'm kidding. Effectively, it would be either the hospital that's controlling that, maybe perhaps the HMO, and they're doing this already, but the problem is the patient has to come into the hospital to change diagnosis programs or something like that. As technology starts to diffuse out from the hospital and diffuse out from these centralized locations, the need to control the functionality on these devices and give a better experience to the user of that device is beginning to manifest itself. Okay. And today, IoT is all about let's just connect some devices and pray. And we think tomorrow the thing that's going to happen is people are going to say, hey, I've connected my devices, how do I control them? How do I make money off of them? And how do I manage them in a secure fashion?
I mean, I don't I don't foresee the general population going from the connected home and Bluetooth connected toilets to, yeah, I want to make 10 cents on a flush. I don't know. I just don't see them trying to monetize that level.
So yeah, so that, but perhaps maybe if I could say, well, you know what, the upfront cost on a dishwasher is $500.
How can I make that back or use it as an
how do I give it to you for $100 and then charge you and like figure out a way to add functionality or give it back to you or work with your water company to say, all right, well, you know what, you got the $200 version, therefore you're only allowed to use it during low water usage times. And now you can create some sort of synergy of network.
I mean, I see it. I see the applications. I really see the automation of it, and it's very Blade Runner, Judge Dredd-esque to me in the world.
Yeah, a little bit.
But the concept of that level of control, you're taking the idea of security, right? It's no longer their issue, and part of me is I agree with that. It's time to stop allowing it to be somebody's choice, right? Like most users don't use all of the features. Most users aren't engaged fully in their software. I was having this conversation the other night about how many people do you know use every feature available to them on their iPhone, right?
Zero.
Very few, right? How many features could you turn off? This is what Apple did with USB. How many features could you turn off and not piss off enough of the world to keep going? Right. And in the security world, how many features could we internalize? How many could we make something that just happens that a user isn't going to care about?
I completely agree. In order to move forward, you have to abstract away the complexity of security. Security is viewed as a cost center, and nobody wants to invest in it. But what they will invest in is the ability to do business model enablement with security. So I can't sit here, Charles, and tell you that you should unlock feature A, B, C, or D based upon any criteria, but I can tell you that if I give you the Legos that allow you to construct something, you are eventually going to construct a business model out of those Legos that is going to make you profitable. That is what our goal is at Rubicon. Yes.
As long as it's serving the greater good of people. I mean, profit isn't the only...
Right. But people are going to do what they're going to do, and sometimes the consumer is tricked into going down a specific business model. I think you can see this with the way cell phones were kind of subsidized after Apple released the iPhone, and they made a mistake with the pricing. In order to get adoption, they had to reduce the initial price of iPhone and then start to change the contracts that AT&T was creating for iPhone usage. And I think you're going to see the ability or the need for people to try out new things. And I think that the ability to remotely control devices and the ability to change functionality, offer them different funding models to try and discover the willingness to pay on certain concepts is going to drive business model innovation. That's really where I see IoT going.
Okay. I mean, right now, we've got everything from cars to refrigerators to everything else is connected. And there's a lot of technology with a lot of processing power and a lot of ideas in the hands of a lot of people that really don't want to understand how it's used, right? They don't want to understand those risks. So on one hand, I can see where this is going to be really cool, and I'd love to see what Rubicon does even more in this space and goes from there. But Rod, we're going to run out of time really quick, and you're not going to get a chance to tell everybody how to learn more about you or find you out here in RSA. How can they do that?
Sure. So you can check us out at rubiconlabs.io, and they can send a question to info@rubiconlabs.io. We have a portal that we can create an account for them, and they can check out our docs and see how our stuff works. I presented yesterday at the RSA conference, and so if they want, they can log on and check out the Monday afternoon sessions, and they'll see me in the security tract, and they can watch me on stage for 50 minutes discussing secure identity, business model enablement, and device control, and some of the things that we say about that.
But not the epic Jordans, as I understand it.
No, but the sad part is, and this I'm looking at you, RSA. All right, is that my shoes were hidden behind the podium, and I may never come back and speak again. So when the details matter, Charles.
I will make sure when this one goes to social media or we have all the great PR people around, it's all shoes. As we'll put it up there. Rod will just be the Jordans.
Next year I hope we connect and we talk about the fact that once again the sneaker industry has survived and has not been attacked by a cyber attack.
Nobody's going to do that. We all like shoes, man. We're just too fast. Well, Rod, it has been a pleasure.
Hey, this has been really awesome. Thanks, Charles.
You have a good one.
Great talking to you.
We're done.